Yo, what's up everybody, this is Rocket here, welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to record CS2 demos for your montages and edits, so you can get the best, smoothest, highest quality gameplay footage that's going to be super easy to edit with, and all round make your edits look a lot more professional than if you were to just use Twitch clips or YouTube videos or like shadow play recordings, that kind of thing. And the way we're going to do that is with a piece of software called HLAE, or Half-Life Advanced Effects, and essentially what that is like a mod for CS that we can use to allow us to grab individual frames of the gameplay, as well as customize a bunch of settings to record the gameplay exactly how we want to. I have shown HLAE on my channel before in the video with a thumbnail on screen right now where I showed you how to make custom cam paths and cinematics and that kind of thing. But in this video, we're going to be focused purely on POV recordings, although you can use this same technique with your cinematics and stuff as well if you wish. So if you want to learn how to make custom CS2 cinematics, then I recommend you go and check out that video, as well as my series of other CS2 videos where I teach you loads of different techniques and skills related to making CS2 montages and edits. If you guys find this video useful, make sure to slap a like on it, subscribe, as well as let me know in the comments any other video ideas you'd like to see on the channel. And without any further ado, let's get into the video. So for this tutorial, you're going to need two pieces of software. The first is HLAE, which I'll leave a link to down in the description, and it'll take you to a page like this. And the other, which is not really strictly necessary, but is definitely a big help, is called Virtual Dub, and I'll leave a link to that down in the description as well. They're both completely free and open source. So let's start off with downloading HLAE. So as you can see, we've got the current release, which is the latest version. I recommend you always grab the latest version, as sometimes Valve updates the game, which has breaking changes for mods like this. So always make sure you grab the latest version. So we're going to go ahead and click on the latest version right here. It's going to take us to the GitHub page, and let's click on HLAE setup.exe because we are on Windows. If you want to check out any of the source code, it is all here. I promise none of it is malware, it is all legitimate as long as you are downloading it from the official GitHub page. Okay, so now we've downloaded HLAE, let's go ahead and open it up. So you'll see Windows protected your PC. Windows Defender is flagging it as potentially malicious purely because there is an unknown publisher, but this software has been around for years and years and years. It is completely safe, so we're going to go ahead and hit run anyway. And here you'll see it's opening up and saying that I can modify my setup, and that is because I have already installed the software. If you haven't installed it before, or you're on an older version, then it will allow you to install it from here. And all you're going to need to do is just click through next in the installer. It will give you three different options of what to install. I believe there will be typical, custom, and full or something like that. Just use the typical version and go ahead and install that. And once that's installed, let's go ahead and open it up. So in my start menu, you'll see we've got HLAE here. Otherwise, if you can't see it, just search for it. And now what we need to do is set it up to work with CS2. Now, the reason we're going to be using HLAE for this video instead of something like OBS or shadow play is because it allows us to record in a image sequence. So currently at the time of recording this video with the CS2 implementation, it will record using TGA files, which are lossless image files, meaning we're going to get maximum quality and we don't have to worry about issues with bitrate and compression artifacts like we would if we were recording with, say, a MP4 file. And it's going to give us a little bit more flexibility than using something like, say, an AVI, where the file will just be absolutely massive. So we're going to record as TGAs because currently that is all that HLAE supports in CS2, but we will convert them to PNGs or JPEGs, whichever you prefer later, to keep the file size down whilst also maintaining really high image quality. In CSGO, HLAE had a lot more features than it does currently in CS2, as it is currently a work in progress. And over time, the developers will be adding more features. Like previously, we were able to record different streams, which are essentially different layers. So we could have a POV layer, which would have the player's hand and weapon and stuff like that. We could have a world layer, which would just be the plain map. We could have another layer with entities, so players and grenades and things like that, as well as being able to export the depth maps for each of those passes. If you don't know what a depth map is, I'll put an image of that on screen. Essentially, what it does is tells us how far away something is from the camera, so then we can edit effects like fog and depth of field blur and things like that. Currently, those are not implemented in the Source 2 version of HLAE, but I do still think it's valuable to learn how to use HLAE now, as those features will become available hopefully in the near future. Once they are available, I will update the pinned comment on this video and potentially make another video going through through how to do all of that, as it's extremely useful for editing CS videos. Another benefit of using HLAE is that we can record at a frame rate that our PC wouldn't normally be able to hit. So for example, if you don't have a particularly great PC and you're running CS at say 100 FPS, with HLAE you will be able to record at 300 FPS or 500 FPS, or you can pick an arbitrary number that you want to record at, and you will be able to, because essentially it's going to slow the gameplay down so that we can record at pretty much whatever frame rate we want to. So essentially you could play back the demo at 25% speed, record it at a high frame rate, and then speed it back up in your editing software. So you wouldn't notice any difference, except you'd have a really high FPS, nice smooth video that you can then use to add motion blur or slow down through time remapping and things like that, and maintain without dropping any frames. So let's set up HLAE to work with CS2. So first I'm going to open up Steam. So we're going to go to Steam, into our library, and before we do anything, we're going to set our Steam to offline mode, because technically HLAE is a kind of hack or mod that Valve's anti-cheat does not like, so it could potentially get you banned. Now, I would not worry about this unless you're going to play online and connect to any VAC servers. You're going to be completely fine, but as a precaution, let's set our Steam to offline mode so that we can't access any of those features that will potentially get us banned. Now, if you launch CS2 normally, even with HLAE installed on your computer, you will be fine. You will only run the risk of getting banned if you launch CS through HLAE, like I'm going to show you how to in a minute, which you will not want to do for competitive play anyway. So let's set Steam to offline mode. So we're going to come up to Steam and then just hit go offline. And you see at the bottom here, it says we're in offline mode. If you click on anything, it says, you know, it's offline and we can't view any content. So that's exactly what we want. Now let's come over to Counter-Strike 2, right click, hit properties, and then do installed files and click on browse. So we can find out where our CS2 is. Then we're going to navigate into our game folder, then bin, then Win64. And in here, you can see we've got our CS2.exe folder. So let's save this path by clicking up here and pressing Ctrl+C to copy it to the clipboard. And then we can close out of this. And inside of HLAE, let's come up to Tools, Developer, Custom Loader, and you'll see mine's already set up, but in the program path, you're just going to press browse and paste in that path that I said about already. And then as you can see here, I've selected CS2.exe, so we'll select that and hit open. And then you're going to want to put this command line into this box here. So I'll leave this in the description so you can copy and paste. At the end here, we've got -W and -H, which is our width and height. So just set this to the resolution of your monitor. So mine is 2560 by 1440. If you have a 4K monitor, then set it to 4K. If you have a 1080p monitor, set it to 1080p. If you don't know what resolution your monitor is, just right click on your desktop, go to display settings. With your main monitor selected, come down to display resolution, it will tell you here. So mine is 2560 by 1440. Yours may be 1920 by 1080. So just type that in here. And then when it says DLLs to inject, we're going to hit browse, then go into x64. And here you're going to see AFX hook source 2. So we're going to be using the source 2 version of HLAE's DLL because CS2 is based on the source 2 engine. So we're going to hit open on that. I'm actually just going to remove it because I have it there twice. So once you've got this all set up how I have, we are good to go. Now, before we launch CS through HLAE, we want to make sure that we have some demos that we can record. So if you have some of your own demos, make sure you've got those downloaded. If you'd like some pro demos, which are like what I'm going to use, then let's just head over to hltv.org. I'm going to go into results and let's have a look through here. So I'm going to go ahead and download a game from the current major that's going on. So we've got Complexity versus Liquid here. So we're going to click on that and you'll see we can rewatch with demo sponsored by Bitskins. So let's go ahead and download that. As you can see, our demo is successfully downloaded. So we're going to go ahead and open up this RAR file. I'm using WinRAR to open it. You can download WinRAR for free and get an evaluation copy. And here you can see we've got the 3 matches that they played. So we got Inferno, Anubis, and Overpass. You can see Liquid won on Inferno and Complexity won on Anubis and Overpass. Now back in Steam and back in our install path for CS, we're going to go into game and then CSGO, and you'll see I've got some .dem files here. So new demo, test demo, Furia versus MIBR, and here is my Complexity versus Liquid demo. So I've already put that in here, but all you need to do is just click and drag and drop it into this file and you'll be able to access it inside of CS2. So now we've got a demo to watch. launch, let's hit OK, and it's going to launch CS2 with HLAE injected. As you can see, CS2 is in offline mode as we don't have any menu we can really use. We can't use any of the buttons because we're not connected to the Steam network, which is exactly what we want because we don't want to run the risk of connecting to a VAC secured server and getting banned. But watching demos offline will be completely fine. We have nothing to worry about. If you open up your developer console, we can check that HLAE has been successfully installed by typing in mirv or MIRV into the console, and if we have all of these commands, it means HLAE is successfully injected. If you don't know how to open your console, go to settings, game, and you'll see here launch with developer console. Should be checked because we launched through HLAE. We go to the console key binding, you can see you can bind it to whatever you want, so mine is on the home key. It will be on the tilde key, I believe, by default, which is the key next to the number 1 key on your keyboard. So if I press my bind, you can see it opens up my console. And now we're going to load into our demo so we can start recording. But just before we do that, I'm going to assume if you're recording your CS2 gameplay like this, it's because you want to use it in a montage or an edit. And if you're experienced with making montages and edits, especially for platforms like YouTube, then I'm sure you can relate to my struggle of finding awesome music that you can use for your montages and edits without getting a copyright strike on the platform. But lucky for us, that is no longer a problem thanks to this video sponsor, Licked. Licked is the perfect tool to enhance your YouTube videos by adding popular music tracks. Boasting a massive collection of over 1.3 million popular songs, Licked offers an extensive range for any type of content you want to create. Now you can legally obtain licenses and download music from some of the world's most renowned artists. As content creators on YouTube, we understand the platform's algorithm favors extended watch time, and what better way to keep your audience's attention than with some fantastic, recognizable music, just like the track you're listening to now. Plenty of other massive creators like Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and the Sidemen are already boosting their engagement using Licked. If you don't license your music legally, you're taking a gamble with YouTube's Content ID system, and believe me, you don't want to risk having your video flagged. This could result in anything from demonetization and restricted exposure to regional blocks or even a copyright strike against your channel. However, with Licked, these concerns are a thing of the past. So why wait any longer? It's time to take your content to the next level. Click the link at the top of the video description where Licked is offering an exclusive 50% discount off your first mainstream track purchase, along with 14 days free access to their extensive stock music collection. That's right, 50% off your first mainstream track and 14 days free stock music. So grab this opportunity and check out Licked with the link at the top of the video description and elevate your content today. Okay, so now you've found some awesome mainstream music through Licked, which you can use for your montages and edits. Let's go ahead and play our demo file and record the gameplay. So the way we're going to do that is by typing play demo into the console and then press space. And you'll see here are all of our demo files that we have in our directory, which I showed you earlier. So for this video, I added the complexity versus liquid game. So we're going to go ahead and select that and press enter. And as you can see, it's going to start loading us into the game. So as you can see, we are inside the demo for the game, and we can click to move through all the different players, and they've got their skins and gloves and everything that you'd expect from some pro players. So if we open up the console again and type in the command demo UI, we'll be able to access this UI here so we can skip through the match. So I actually want to record this round. So let's go ahead and find a good person to record. So I actually want to record the POV of, I believe this is NAF. So let's go back 15 seconds. And we'll start recording from here. Before we start recording, we need to customize some settings. So back in the console, let's enable cheats. So we're going to type in sv_cheats1 to enable cheats. Then we're going to type merv_cvar_unhide all, which is going to unhide commands that we're going to use in this video so that we get a bit of like IntelliSense or whatever it is, which is going to help us type in the commands. Then we're going to type in merv_streams record screen enabled 1. This is specific to source 2, I believe. We need to enable this, otherwise we'll get the audio but we won't get any gameplay. And now I'm going to apply a couple settings that are just personal preference. So the first one is FOV_CS_debug, and then we can type in any value for what we want the FOV to be. So I'm going to go with 100, and you'll see that'll zoom out the video a bit more. Go to like 140 or something to make it ridiculous, but I quite like 100. It just gives us a little bit wider of a field of view. And then I'm going to type in CL_draw only death notices 1, and that's going to hide all of the HUD except for the death notices in the corner. Now we're going to choose what frame rate you want to record at. So I'm going to type host_frame rate, and I'm going to record at 300 300 FPS. Now you can record at 60 FPS, you can record at 150 FPS, you can record at whatever number of FPS you want. I'm going to go for 300 because if I want to make my montage at 60 FPS, for example, then for every one frame of that 60 FPS video, we have 5 frames because 60 times 5 is 300, which allows us to slow our clip down without dropping any frames. If you want to record, if you want to edit at 30 FPS, for example, we then have 10 frames for every frame of that 30 FPS clip, so we can slow it down even more. Now, I'm going to go with 300. You can go with whatever number you like. However, be very careful which number you pick and how long you record for, because HLAE records with the TGA format, which is an uncompressed, lossless image file. Each image or each frame could be anywhere from sort of 5 to 15 megabytes. So I really wouldn't do this unless you've got about 100 gigabytes free on your hard drive. Now, this isn't permanent. We'll only be using all this space temporarily because we're going to then convert them into a smaller file format and delete the lossless ones later on. But I would not recommend doing this if your hard drive is pretty much full. So you'll see in my case, I'm going to be putting it on my D drive. So I have 963 gigabytes free on there. So I've got plenty of space, and I'll show you once we've recorded it how much space it ends up taking up in my case, just so you can judge, how much you need to have. One way to reduce how much space it uses is by lowering this value. So if I recorded at 150 FPS, I'm going to use half the amount of space I would for 300. So I'd recommend keeping your clips to sort of, no longer than like 15 seconds. Try and keep them short. But for me, I'm going to go with 300 FPS, so host frame rate 300. Then I'm going to type in host_timescale 0. And now what we're going to do is choose where we want to save our video to. So let's type in merv_streams space record name parentheses, and in my D drive you can see I've already made a file called HLAE rex. So just make a file wherever you want to save this to. So mine is here, and then I'm going to select up here and get the file path and press Ctrl C back into CS, paste it here, another parentheses, speech marks, whatever you want to call it after, and I'm going to press enter, and that's now set where we're going to record to. Now all we need to type is to start recording, so we're going to do merv_streams record, and then we're going to type start. But before I do that, I'm going to type end, and I'm going to select that and copy that to my clipboard because we're going to need this to end the clip. And, if I'm going to type this in, it could take me anywhere from, it could take me 5 seconds to type this in, and that's 5 seconds extra recording, extra space that I'm using. So by copying it to my clipboard, it means I can end the recording quickly when I need to. So I'm going to keep that copied, and then I'm going to just replace this with start. If you put a semicolon after and then type in demo UI, it will allow you to execute 2 commands at once, so we can start the recording and close the demo UI at the same time. So when I press enter on this, it's going to start recording, this is going to disappear, and it will be recording. So I'm going to hit play, hit enter, escape to close that, and you'll see it's recording. It's in slow motion because I'm trying to record at 300 FPS. You won't be able to hear any audio, but don't worry, it's going to save it in a separate file. And now I'm going to quickly end the video like that. And we can open up demo UI again and pause it. And if you've got this long list of audio device, blah, 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 that means you were recording, which is good. And you'll see here it says finishing movie, blah, 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 blah. We did 1,937 frames at 300 FPS. So we got just over 6 seconds worth of gameplay. If we look in our folder, you see we've got another folder that says take 0000. And these are all of the frames from our video, as well as the audio from the recording as well. So for just over 6 seconds at 300 FPS at 1440p, this has used up 19 gigabytes of storage. So that will give you an idea of how much space you're going to need available when doing recordings like this. And now we can close out of CS because we're done. So let's type in quit. And now let's go about converting these to a format that is more usable, because I think having almost 20 gigabytes of clip is not very useful when you want to have, say, 10 different clips that are all 10 seconds long. You're going to be using hundreds of gigabytes worth of just images. So let's make a new folder, and we're going to call this PNGs, because I want to export mine as PNGs. If you don't know what a PNG file is, it is essentially an image file. It's essentially an image file format that is lossless, meaning we will not lose any quality from this image to the PNG, but it is still compressed, so it uses lossless compression to reduce the file format whilst also keeping all the quality. You could also convert it to JPEGs if you want, which is another file format that uses lossy compression, but depending on how much you compress it, you can maintain 99% of the quality at 5% of the file size, for example. And I'll show you how to do this now. So that's where the second piece of software comes in, which I showed you earlier, and that is Virtual Dub. So I'm on Windows and I have a 64-bit system like I imagine you would. So let's go ahead and download this. It's going to open up SourceForge and we'll start the download in 5 seconds. And then all I've done is created a folder on my desktop called Virtual Dub. So just create a folder, you can put it wherever you like. And then we're going to open up the compressed folder that we downloaded from SourceForge, and we're just going to drag and drop all of this into the folder we made. And now double click on vdub64.exe and we're going to open up our image sequence. So open video file, let's go to D drive, HLAE, these are all of our images, and down here we're going to select image sequence, keep the first one selected and press open, and you'll see now we've got our recording in here. We can, scroll through it just like that. So let's go ahead and convert this into PNGs or JPEGs if you prefer. So file, export, image sequence, and then we're going to just leave the file name blank. And down here, you'll see we have the options for Target, which is the TGA file, which you can see is used here. We're not going to do that. We're going to either use JPEG, which again, you can compress as much or as little as you like. If you're really low on storage, I recommend using JPEG. The higher the compression, the lower the file size, but the lower the quality. The lower the compression, the higher the file size, but the better the quality. A good sort of midpoint is PNG, which is what I'm going to use, and we're going to have quick compress on. And let's select a folder that we want to use. So in my case, I made a folder inside of here called PNG. So we'll select that and press open. And you'll see it shows what our file's gonna look like. So we're gonna have 0000 up to 1935 because we have 1935 frames, or I guess 36 frames if we include 00. And hit OK. Here you can see there's a progress bar. If you turn off show input video and output video, it makes it a little bit quicker. And you can also, if you're running a lot of other stuff on your computer, bump the processing thread priority up to higher. I probably wouldn't go any higher than higher. And you'll see it's going pretty quickly. I did try some other conversion software and this one seems to be the fastest. So you can see we've already done almost 160 images. If we go into our PNG folder, you'll see they're all here. As it's converting them live, open them up and scroll through, as you can see. Okay, awesome. So as you can see, it has now finished converting. So we can go ahead and close out of Virtual Dub, and we can also close HLAE as well. And in here, you'll see we have all of our PNG images. So let's go ahead and delete all of our TGAs. So you'll see the PNG folder is only 7 gigabytes compared to 20 gigabytes. If you use JPEG, you get this to below 2 gigabytes. But I prefer PNG as we don't lose any quality. Then let's go ahead and grab our audio. So we're going to just put that in our PNG folder. Lovely. And let's delete that folder. And we can clear it from our recycle bin as well to save 20 gigabytes. Okay, so all we need to do now is go ahead and open this image sequence in your video editor of choice. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to use Adobe Premiere Pro. You can use After Effects, you can use Sony Vegas, you can use Davinci Resolve, you could use whatever software you want. They'll all support image sequences. You may just have to look up how it works in your particular software. So let's create a new project and we'll just call it tutorial. And now we're going to right click and click on import, and inside our PNG we're going to select the first one and you'll see image sequence here is automatically checked, and we're going to hit open, and now we've got this this video here. Now if we double click on it, play through it, you'll see it's really slow, and that's because we're currently playing back at probably 30 FPS, 24 FPS. I'm not sure what it thinks this is. Let's have a look. Modify interpret footage. So it currently thinks it's 25 FPS, so that's why we're playing back so much slower. So let's go ahead and tell it that we are at 300 FPS. So you'll see it's going to go from 1 minute and 17 seconds to 6 seconds, and we'll be able to play through it at normal speed. See, it's lagging a bit because it's such high FPS. And now we're going to make a new sequence. We're going to go for 60 FPS. You could do 25, 30, whatever you want. I'm just going to use 60. If you want to make a cinematic kind of edit, then I wouldn't recommend going, do 24, 25. But we're just going to use 60 for the sake of this. We're going to do 2560 by 1440. For my next video, I think I'm going to be teaching you how to record really high quality, like high resolution gameplay, as well as how to create proxies and things like that, so you can edit at a lower resolution and then render out at the much higher one, so you have all the performance while you're editing, and then when you render it out, it looks really, really good. So stay tuned for that. But for the minute, we're just going to leave it how it is. So 2560 by 1440, 60 FPS. That is all fine. And we're going to go ahead and drag and drop our clip onto the timeline and keep existing settings. I'm going to close that. And you'll see here we have our normal clip, just like it looked in game, except it's now really, really high FPS, but we're just playing back at 60. Let's go ahead and include our audio as well. So we're going to drag and drop that into our project just to show that the audio still works. I'm going to play through this now. As you can see, the audio is all synced up. So let's go ahead and remove where we had the console open. Get rid of that as well. Awesome. I'm going to mute this so that it stops making this horrible sound. And now we have a super clean recording of our demo that is at really high FPS. So if we change the speed to 25%, you see we're not going to be dropping any frames. Yeah, you can play through this and it's still, we're not dropping a single frame. We're in a 60 FPS composition. We're getting the full 60 FPS from this recorded clip. So if you're using Adobe After Effects and you want to time remap it or anything like that, you can, and it will be super duper smooth. And another thing you can do, which I covered in this video with a thumbnail on screen right now. In that video, I used a software called Flow Frames, which uses AI to generate extra frames in the video. With this, you don't need to do that. You can use 100% real frames and then render it out using frame blending. And essentially what it's going to do is squish all of those extra frames that we have into every individual frame that we're rendering out at. So for example, if we're rendering at 60 FPS and recorded at 300, we're going to squish 5 frames into 1 frame of the output, creating a really nice natural motion blur. So go ahead and check that video out if you want to. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Just to demonstrate a bit more about what I mean with the FPS thing, I've just written a quick Python script that has deleted 4 of every 5 frames from my folder. So you can see this is now only 1.5 gigabytes instead of 7.48. So this is now at 60 FPS. So if I go ahead and import this image sequence, you can see, and let's interpret it to 60 FPS, and we'll drag and drop this in as well. We're going to need to just remove these. So the bottom one is our 300 FPS clip, and the top one is our 60 FPS clip. Let's go ahead and do speed duration, and we'll make them 25% speed, and then we'll make the top one only cover half the screen like that. You'll see now as I drag the playhead, if I open this full screen, as I press the right arrow key to move through my sequence, you'll see the left side of the screen, which is at 300 FPS, that's been slowed down to 25% speed, will still have a frame for every frame of the video. So, whereas the right one will only have one every 4 frames. So if I press the right arrow key, so you can see the left side updated, they both updated. So let's count. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the right one updates. 1, 2, 3, 4. The right one updates. 1, 2, 3, 4. The right one updates. 1, 2, 3, 4. The right one updates. So you see, we've dropped loads of frames on the 60 FPS version, whereas on the left side, which is the 300 FPS version, we're not dropping any frames at all. So as I play through it, you can see, watch the left side, how smooth it is compared to the right side. You see? And that's why it's great to record at such a high frame rate if you're going to be slowing the clips down or anything like that. That's pretty much it for this video. If you guys did find this useful at all, then please do leave a like on the video, subscribe, let me know any other videos you'd like to see on the channel in the comment section. Big shout out to Licked for sponsoring this video. Check them out with the link at the top of the video description. Check out all my other editing tutorials. I have plenty on Valorant and also on CS2 as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.